I want to talk about taking a personal interest in public policy. Taking a personal interest in public policy. Let me say welcome to this Thursday morning, June the 3rd, 2021. Can you believe it? Man, I tell you. Let me ask you something. Who are the undesirables of our society? Who are the real victims and the subjects of the powers that be? Who is it that is really getting the short end of the stick of the American dream? How can we identify them, or how do we identify them? We have different ways of identifying the haves and the have-nots, the victims and the perpetrators, but it seems impossible for us to create an environment and a system where we can all be simply identified and seen as Americans collectively. You know, the Bible talks about ways of identifying various people and groups of society that are often criticized and victimized, exploited. In particular, it speaks of the widows and the orphans, the poor, the lepers, the disabled, and those who are, again, criticized and ostracized and persecuted because of their commitment to God. In our society, the victims of the ruling class are usually identified as blacks and people of color, immigrants, and the ones that seem to be on everybody's list are the poor, the helpless, and the disadvantaged. But I want to point out another list. I want to talk about another group. I would like to suggest to you that there is another list of victims, another list of those who are lagging behind and enjoying the privileges and the benefits of being American citizens. And my list looks something like this. The silent ones, the uninvolved ones, the absent ones, the unconcerned ones, the fearful ones, and the weak ones who are so easily fooled and manipulated by those in power. The lazy ones, the uninformed ones, and those who depend on their dependency on others in order to live. And often they just happen to be blacks, people of color. They just happen to be poor and the least educated. But I want you to understand now, this is my take. So don't hate, all right? But how is it that we can comfortably sit around waiting and whining about what the government and what corporate America is doing to us and not doing for us, when there are so many of us who are not willing to do anything, not even the least thing, to help ourselves? Why aren't we involved? Listen, when we aren't involved, when we don't contribute, when we don't invest in our own people, our own communities, or our own future, but are constantly complaining, constantly criticizing everybody else and anybody else and expecting someone else, including the government, to do everything for us, we are no better than a common beggar on the streets. I mean, really, we are feeling good about something that we really should be feeling guilty about. How can we complain so much when we don't have that personal interest in public policy? Listen, in America, there are contributors and consumers, not one or the other, but one in the same. We are both contributors. We're all both contributors and consumers. The rule that should apply is if you aren't a contributor, you can't be a consumer. That's really the way it ought to be. That's the way it is, really, in many cases. Our success and our survival is a shared responsibility. You don't contribute, you're a burden to the system. And don't tell me that you can't do. Tell me what you can do. Don't talk about what you can't. Tell me what you can. Tell me what you're willing to do, because each of us, there's something that we can do. Each of us, one way or the other, can contribute something. Okay? But as long as you listen, as long as you think like a victim and act like a victim, you will likely be treated like a victim. As long as you think like a foreigner, an outsider, and act like you don't belong and act like it's not your country, then how do you expect anyone to treat you like a fellow American? We've got to learn that this is our country. We must embrace it. We act and think like we are less than and supposed to be treated differently, and therefore we are treated like we are less than and we are treated differently, because that's the way we think. That's what we expect. Let me share a secret with you. You know, and I've never voiced this to anyone, but let me tell you something. Whether I've tried to do certain things or things in particular, or wanted to do certain things in life, I've always felt that I could do whatever I wanted to do. I have never felt that I was restricted by my color or by my race. I've never felt that way. One thing about, when we look at women, for example, in our society, many of them, black women who've been treated badly and disrespected for so long that they sort of expect to be treated badly and disrespected and discriminated against. And so they're always paranoid and edgy and defensive and sensitive to being seen as a woman. And black people are the same way. We're defensive. Black people are the same. We are always self-conscious about being treated like we are black. That's what we expect. But we expect to be treated like we're black. We blame our failures and our problems on being black. How, my friend, can you disown this country and then expect this country to treat you any other way than someone who is out of place? We are the ones that oftentimes pull back, separate ourselves from other people, and avoid other races. We do that sometimes because we expect them to treat us like we're black. Therefore, for many of us, it is difficult to navigate through American society because we're always looking over our shoulders, fearful of our blackness. Well, here's my secret, okay? And I've never said this to anyone. I move through society among other people, among other people of our society, acting like I don't know that I'm black, while never forgetting that I am. I go through life acting like I don't know that I'm black, but I never forget that I am. I don't care where you are, who you are, whatever you are in America, you have the power to change the course of our nation. You have the power to make a difference. But if you keep acting like you don't belong, you will continue to be treated like you don't belong. This is our country. We must get involved personally in the public affairs of our country. On the surface, I understand the government, the political machines, and big business represent the powers that be of America. I know it looks that way. And I believe that even white people in general have been unfairly lumped into that group. There's no doubt that the government, the political machines, and the special interest groups, the lobbyists and corporate America wield a great deal of power and influence in our country, in American society. I understand that. I get it. But do you know why? Do you know why they can so easily impose their will upon the people of America? Do you know why they have so much power? Do you know where they get such power from? They are using power that doesn't belong to them. They are using power that has been left on the table. Yes, power that has been left on the table by you and by me because we're not using it. And I mean, it's a natural progression. When one abdicates the throne, another ascends to the throne. It's going to happen every time. I believe there's a greater power. I believe there's a more effective and a more influential group that has not yet been fully pressed into service in American society. And I believe that that group is simply the American people. Yes, the American people, all American people. Those people that many of us see as those poor, defenseless, and helpless people who have resigned themselves to such defeatist attitudes and statements as, well, they're going to do whatever they want to do anyway. Well, there's nothing that we can do. We are at their mercy. Or we ask the question, what can one person do? Well, I'll tell you what one person can do, my friend. One person can do what one person can do. One person can contribute. One person can connect to another person and another and another. And every one person has a brain. You have something to offer. Every one person has a voice. And every one person has just as much right to the responsibilities and the benefits as an American as the next one person. Every one person has something to offer. Every one person has something to gain. Every one person has influence. And every one person has power, just as much power as the next person. And I got to tell you that I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed. And, you do understand that disappointment comes as a result of expectations. I am disappointed in what I see in our people, of people that are so quiet, so docile, so passive, of people so willing to put up with just about anything. I never expected to see what I'm seeing in our people today. I never expected to see what I'm seeing in our representatives, in our politicians. I never expected to see what I'm seeing. And I certainly never expected to see what I'm seeing in our community and religious leaders. I never expected that. And you may ask, well, who are you to be disappointed? Well, I'm someone who cares. That's who I am. I'm someone who is concerned about the direction and the destiny of our country and our world. Who am I to be disappointed? I don't mind telling you. I am someone who appreciates and enjoys the benefits of being an American. Who am I to be disappointed? I'm someone who contributes and gets tired of hearing non-contributors complain and criticize that which they are not willing to do anything about. You still asking the question, who am I to be disappointed? I'm someone who is sickened by the power and the benefits and the opportunities that are being left on the table because of a people who is afraid to stand up and speak up and rise up. I am someone who is absolutely confounded when I hear the deafening sound of silence coming from people who have the mind to speak, people who have the influence to speak, people who have the power of speech, and the people who have the platform from which to speak. Yeah, that's why I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the people the people who are the most affected by the powers that be. The power really isn't in the government. And no matter how much corporate America has money, no matter how rich and wealthy they are, the power is not in corporate America. The power is in the people. And one of my greatest disappointments is in the politicians who are put in office by those people, by us who are affected by the powers that be. And then there are the preachers who preach to those people, who has I think who has the best platform, the following, who is connected to the power, who have the ability, who have the skills, who have the means, listen, to help people to speak up and to speak out. And we can't say that we cannot do it. We can't talk about, I can't do it by myself. There are plenty of people, plenty of groups around us that are trying to help us, that are trying to guide us, that are trying to lead us. But oftentimes, we don't want to follow leadership. We don't want to be educated. We want to be entertained. We don't want to hear nobody tell us what we're doing wrong and try to tell us the right way that we ought to go, because we think we're grown. We think we know. I got this. And we're falling further and further behind as a people. Our nation, this is a country that we must embrace, we must own, and we must share in the responsibility. We must invest in it, contribute to it. We have to do our part and not sit around waiting on somebody to hand us something all the time. There are people who are there willing to help us and to lead us and to guide us. But we have to be willing to follow. We have to support them. We have to respect them. We have to protect them. Let me tell you something, my friend, and I told you this a week or so ago, that we can sit around all we want to, la goo goo over Kamala Harris, and I thank God for her. But let me tell you something. The race is not over. The battle is not over. There are people who, since the election, have been plotting and planning for your downfall and my downfall. The powers that be who want to continue to control the people of America. And we need to stand up and we need to speak up, all people of America. All people who want to do the right thing. All people who believe in fairness and justice and equality for all people. We got to take a personal interest in public policy. We've got to get involved. And I'm not saying that you ought to run for office, but there's something you ought to at least think about. If you don't run for office, you can support someone who does. We got to understand, learn, and get to know this political system that we have in America so that we will be able to navigate, we'll be able to help, and that we'll be able to understand what is going on in America. We've got to study our history, my friend, because we're really going in circles, and what we are seeing today is nothing new. It's been seen, it's been done before. And if you study your history, you'll be better prepared for what is happening to us today. But we don't want to study our history. We don't want to know about that. Again, we're sort of in a zone somewhere. I don't know where we are. But listen, we've got to wake up, people. We've got to wake up. We've got to speak up. We've got to get up. We've got to rise up. Because if we don't, listen, we could possibly, I'm talking about overnight, be right back where we started from. The battle is never over. We never graduate from this. We never get over this. We never get out of it. It's always a constant fight, right against wrong, evil against good, always there. It's not going anywhere. It's a fight that we must engage in and day out. But we have to take a personal interest and stop sitting around. Listen once again to what I'm saying to you people. Stop sitting around depending on those that we depend on to do what we want them to do for us. We can do for ourselves as people of America. I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about all people. I'm talking about people who are up against the powers that be, corporate America, and these political machines. And America has become more about these political machines than about the people. It is not a country of the people, by the people, for the people. It has now become a people for the political machine. By the party, for the party. And I told you before, that's one of our biggest problems, is party politics. We have to take a personal interest in public policy and stop waiting until we wait on them to pass all these dumb, stupid laws, and then we want to complain about it. We're always chasing a train after it has left the station. Get involved now, and we can prevent some of this. You have what it takes, my friend. You do. You can do something. You can contribute. You have something to offer. You have a voice. Your voice is powerful. You have a voice. It's powerful. We as people are more powerful than any machine, than any government, than any special interest group. The people, all people of America, if we would simply come together and make our nation the best nation that it could ever be. Now that's my take. What do you have to say? You do know that you have a voice, right? Bless you. Listen, I look to see you next time. I hope you join with us as we continue to talk about my take. And of course, we talk about anything under the sun. Politics, health, whatever. Whatever. Anything that concerns people concerns me.